Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, the threats from Iran. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and incoming President Donald Trump discussing how to deal with Iran, as Israel and Hezbollah also keep up their attacks against each other. The attacks against the Israeli Jews in Amsterdam were just the latest example of the growing anti-Semitic violence against Jews in Europe. We're going to bring you a look up close. Here at home, we're going to show you what was behind the major pro-life victories in the battle over state constitutional amendments on abortion last week, and how refugees in a civil war in Southeast Asia are coming to faith in Jesus Christ. We've got all those stories and much more ahead today, right now on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
Let's begin this busy Monday in the Middle East, where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President-elect Donald Trump see eye to eye on Iran. That is the word from Netanyahu after the two leaders spoke several times following Trump's election victory. This comes as the U.S. charged that Iran pursued an assassination plot against President-elect Donald Trump. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell brings us our report now. He is reporting from Jerusalem.
Netanyahu says he and President Trump are on the same page about the threat Iran poses to the world.
These were very good and important conversations, talks designed to further tighten the strong alliance between Israel and the USA. We see eye to eye on the Iranian threat and all its components and the danger posed by it.
In the meantime, Iran's supreme leader and foreign ministry are hinting they may be trying to race toward nuclear weapons.
Our official stance in rejecting weapons of mass destruction and the peaceful nature of our nuclear program is absolutely clear. Meanwhile, as emphasized in the Supreme Leader's recent speech, we will get equipped with whatever is necessary to defend Iran.
The foreign ministry spokesman also denied Iranian plans to assassinate President Trump. The U.S. says it discovered just such a plot. Despite the advances the IDF is making in southern Lebanon, Ayatollah Khamenei insists Iran's proxy Hezbollah will prevail. The IDF continues to destroy Hezbollah infrastructure throughout southern Lebanon. They discovered a large complex buried underneath this cemetery and are filling it up with concrete. Meanwhile, Israel returned nearly 2,000 of its citizens from Amsterdam on emergency flights after Thursday night's organized brutal assault on Jews by radical Muslims.
We all saw what happened, shameful. This is the world we live in now, unfortunately. Our fans were very intimidated when they went through the worst there. Unfortunately, they came to see soccer, and that's what happened.
Dutch leaders condemned the attacks, and Israel's new foreign minister, Gideon Saar, flew to Amsterdam and warned European leaders these attacks cannot be tolerated.
Radical Islam is dangerous, not only in the Middle East, not only to Israel. It is dangerous to Western society. If you compromise with this mob that made yesterday these barbaric attacks in the streets of Amsterdam, finally you cannot recognize the society and the country you are living. And this is the real danger today.
Netanyahu drew a connection between the recent ruling of the International Court of Justice and the attacks.
In both cases, it's a dangerous anti-Semitism that aims to make the Jews and their country helpless.
Netanyahu also appointed U.S.-born Dr. Yakil Leiter as Israel's new ambassador to the United States. Dr. Leiter's son was one of the first IDF soldiers to fall in combat in Gaza last November, and soon after, he appeared on the 700 Club.
Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell joins us now to continue our coverage from Jerusalem. So, Chris, is Israel planning on taking any more actions to protect its citizens in Europe from more attacks?
Well, Ephraim, I think they want to be much more proactive after what happened in Amsterdam last week. I think they'll be calling on European leaders to step up security wherever Jewish communities are. And also the possibility, I've heard, of maybe proactive operations by the Mossad to actually go and hit some of these people that are behind these attacks, some of these organizers. And but many see the European governments either unwilling sometimes or unable to protect the Jewish communities there in Europe. This is a stark reminder of Kristallnacht back in 1938, and they're saying this is like a Kristallnacht in 2024. Kristallnacht was called the Night of the Broken Glass when German stormtroopers and SS destroyed hundreds of synagogues, thousands of Jewish businesses, and literally arrested 30,000 Jewish men. But also, Ephraim, it's important to note many Europeans, they have a problem too. They have had massive immigration from Muslim countries. Some people see this as jihad by immigration, literally taking over some parts of European cities that right now are really off limits to non-Muslims. We found that to be true in Brussels a few years ago. It's in Paris, in other major cities in Europe. So it's not only just a Jewish problem, but it is and as Gideon Sar was warning, radical Islam is a problem for Europe as well as the world.
Chris, President-elect Trump and Netanyahu have spoken at least 3 times since his election victory. Is there any thinking that his victory will make Iran think twice about attacking Israel?
Well, this could be one of the topics that Trump and Netanyahu have talked about, certainly about Iran. And would it be possible, since Trump and Netanyahu seem to see eye to eye and being on the same page, that there would be a coalition by the U.S. and Israel to deal especially with Iran's nuclear program? To hit Iran's nuclear programs, Israel would prefer to see that as a joint effort. Why? Because the U.S. has the bunker-busting technology to hit many of those underground nuclear sites that Iran has been building for many, many years. Some believe they could do this as a joint operation, maybe in about 48 hours, could end the war with Iran very quickly, and perhaps, Ephraim, set the stage for peace in the region, and/or could this kind of joint U.S., Iranian, Israeli coalition really be a tipping point for the end of the Islamic regime? That would be the answer to prayer for many Iranians, many of them who have become believers in Jesus.
Is Israel concerned that Iran will pick up the pace for its nuclear program since Trump's victory?
It could be. They maybe see this window from Election Day to January 20th as maybe their last chance to race towards a nuclear weapon before Trump takes office. There are some parts of Iranian society right now that are actually calling on Iran to go ahead and build those nuclear weapons. Some of the members of parliament are calling for that as well. Right now, Iran is close to enriching uranium to 90%. That's weapons-grade uranium, and that would be enough for a nuclear weapon. And many people believe they have enough potential enriched uranium for not only one, but several nuclear weapons. Also, Iran sees its proxy strategy in the region crumbling. Hamas is nearly defeated. Hezbollah is on its way to being defeated. So this so-called ring of fire that they've set up, proxies surrounding Israel to try to destroy the Jewish state, is literally up in flames. The nuclear project itself has been a 30-year project, and yet under Biden, they've been able to advance this nuclear program because of the ease of many sanctions. But so many people believe it could be a window that Iran would go ahead and try to race to a nuclear weapon.
The London Daily Mail is reporting Israel has found video of Hamas torturing Palestinians. Is this an example of how Hamas rules by fear?
Absolutely. It's a brutal dictatorship. This shocking footage. They've ruled by force from 2007. These are either adulterers, homosexuals, people accused of collaboration with Israel. They found this footage on closed-circuit TV, and it's just horrific. And that's the way Hamas has been ruling for many, many years. And even right now inside Gaza, Ephraim, there's reports of growing hatred toward Hamas, blaming Hamas for their misery. Many people, on the other hand, around streets in the U.S. and other places around the world praising Hamas, really don't know the true nature of this organization.
What's the latest on the war with Hezbollah?
Well, most Israelis support the war in southern Lebanon. That's according to a recent poll. Not sure of who's going to control southern Lebanon after the war, but many people see it's so important for 60,000 plus Israelis to go back to their home along the Israeli Lebanese border. That's underreported, but that's really one of the goals right now of Israel, to make sure they can go back home.
Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell joining us from Jerusalem. Thank you, as always, for your insights. Stay safe and know that we here are praying for you and our team on the ground there in Israel. The attacks against Israelis in Amsterdam Friday are just the latest example of anti-Semitic violence in Western Europe. There's been a rise of violence across the area since Hamas's sneak attacks on October 7th, and it's causing Jews to ask if they still have a future there. CBN's Dale Hurd is on this story.
Outside the Brussels Stock Exchange on the one-year anniversary of the October 7th massacre, pro-Hamas demonstrators joined in a public prayer for Allah to burn the Jews. Pro-Hamas, anti-Israel demonstrations have been held daily in Brussels since the massacre. Some have included the leaders of Belgium's major left-wing parties. Even though the European Union has designated Hamas a terrorist organization, Hamas-affiliated groups are operating in several countries. Joel Rubenfeld, president of the Belgian League Against Anti-Semitism, says Brussels today feels like Gaza, and Jews in Belgium and across Western Europe are asking if it's time to leave.
It's just crazy. It's a tsunami. It's a tsunami of anti-Semitism, which is spreading all over the Western world, and it's a failure of the democracy. It's a failure for Belgium.
Both France and Germany report the number of anti-Semitic crimes has doubled this year compared to last year. In Britain, the number of reported anti-Semitic incidents has more than doubled, and in this nation that has been a safe haven for Jews, some have raised the specter of another place and time. Comparisons to Nazi Germany are overused, but there are some disturbing parallels in today's Britain for Jews. Because of threats, some Jewish organizations now have secret addresses. Virtually all need security. Gideon Falter heads Britain's campaign against anti-Semitism.
We are seeing the radicalization of society. We are seeing young people who believe that they are doing a righteous thing by discriminating. We see graffiti. We're hearing from Holocaust survivors who say, you've got to be really careful about this stuff. This is the thin end of the wedge.
British journalist David Collier, a Jew, is very pessimistic because of how the influx of Muslim immigrants has changed perceptions of Israel and Jews in Britain.
It's completely different. It's a different country with a different demographic, a different outlook. Everything about it is different.
In Belgium, Rubenfeld says it feels as if Jews live in a kind of parallel world where Israel, Jews, and democracy are evil and Hamas is good.
It's what I call the anti-Semitic metaverse, where black is white, where wrong is right, an inversion of values, an inversion of truth.
And Collier is afraid that Europe may never again be a safe place for Jews.
Personally, I see Europe as lost, and I don't see a way back.
Dale Hurd, CBN News, London.
Coming up here at home, how pro-lifers won some major victories in last week's election battles over state constitutional amendments on abortion. We've got that story for you. It's all coming up next. The pro-life movement won some victories on election night last week thanks to strong action from key political leaders. As Lori Johnson shows us, some believe those wins will serve as a blueprint for more success.
Tuesday, 10 states voted on abortion ballot measures. Pro-life voices came out on top in 3 of those states, despite being outspent by the abortion industry 6-1. Voters in South Dakota, Nebraska, and Florida rejected calls to expand abortion access, thereby keeping bans on the procedure in place.
We were thrilled to see some great victories this year.
Outspoken pro-life politicians in those states deserve much of the credit. In South Dakota, Senator John Thune, Representative Dusty Johnson, and Governor Kristi Noem fought against their measure. Nebraska, Senator Pete Ricketts and Governor Jim Pillen did the heavy lifting in that state, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis went the extra mile to defeat Amendment 4.
He traveled around the state. He fundraised on behalf of the pro-life cause and made the case directly to Floridians about why Amendment 4 was so dangerous, why it was so extreme, why it would California our Florida laws.
The strategy of involving pro-life elected leaders will likely be used in future ballot initiatives, whether it's states that haven't voted on abortion yet or ones that may consider them again, such as Missouri, where Tuesday's results were razor thin.
Just 51% voted for that initiative, with $30 million spent lying about what it was about. And so I think, of course it's a tragedy because there are babies who will lose their lives because this passed in Missouri, but it shows us that if we can get our leaders in the game, if we can go back to the voters and directly communicate about what Amendment 3 did, we have the opportunity to overturn it in the future.
Meanwhile, abortion activists are touting their wins in 7 states on Tuesday. One Planned Parenthood official claims banning abortion and restricting access to essential care is a losing issue. Voters chose freedom. However, their message could alienate large numbers of Americans.
Their version of America is one that is dark. It is disempowering. They tell women there are a million reasons why you can't do it, why you need an abortion. The pro-life movement is offering something that is hopeful, that is empowering, that says you can do it and we're going to walk alongside you.
Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Still ahead, how refugees from a brutal civil war in Southeast Asia are coming to faith in Jesus Christ. We're going to have that story for you when we come back. In the country of Myanmar, an ongoing civil war is forcing many civilians to flee. Rebel forces are preparing for a push on a key border town held by the military. Mayawati is an important trading hub between Myanmar and Thailand. It's also where refugees cross the border seeking safety. CBN's Asia correspondent Lucille Toulousan takes us there to see the church that's helping them to survive.
Thai soldiers patrol the border in case fighting between Myanmar military and rebel forces spill into their country. Myanmar's military is now in control of the Myawaddy town in Myanmar, which is right here behind me. The situation here is now peaceful but remains volatile because the armed rebel group is determined to fight again and retake the Myawaddy town, which is a very important place of trade, and this is also the gateway to Thailand, where thousands of people from Myanmar cross over this river to seek refuge in Thailand and to hopefully have a better life. Juju Tin shares how jet fighters firing at their village wounded her husband and forced the family to run for their lives. Fortunately, they escaped together to a civil defense camp in the jungle.
It was very scary, especially for our little boy. Our village was being bombed every day. Our houses burned and our neighbors were getting killed. We rode a bus and traveled 12 hours, then we crossed to Mesot town in Thailand to live in a refugee camp.
4 months since their escape, Juju, her husband, and their 2-year-old son remain at the Thai refugee camp. According to Pastor Moses Jote of the Church of Christ, these refugees have now become church members. In 2008, Pastor Moses, a Burmese native, married a Thai woman and moved to Mesot. Filled with compassion towards his own people, he started a Burmese church with the help of American missionaries.
In Burma, they are homeless, hopeless, no education. No good for survival. We saw their problem. Somebody had no food. What we have in my household, we show God's love. Then later we share the gospel. And they accept the word of God. They believe Jesus as their Lord and Savior.
It was the first time I heard about Jesus in the refugee village. I believed right away because I felt the love of Jesus through the people from the church. I am 6 months pregnant, and they bring me to the hospital for my free checkup.
Raised as Buddhists, Juju and her husband share how they learned the difference in now praying to Jesus.
I am a refugee, but God saved me. I am thankful to God because now I know that our family has a good future.
While no one knows the future of Myanmar, one positive result from the war is how a growing number of refugees now know Jesus Christ and can enjoy true peace and freedom. Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Mesot, Thailand.
We're right back with an encouraging word for your Monday. Stay with us. Time now for your Monday motivation. I want to leave you with this message to jumpstart your week. Remember this: don't quit, reset, refocus, but don't you dare give up. Every choice has an invoice, so choose to keep going. The race is won by all who endure. With that word, make this a marvelous Monday. That is a wrap for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there at any time. That address is cbnnews.com. Take a moment, let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.